welcome to SportsBeat KC, the Kansas City Star sports podcast presented by Underdog. On this show, we are bidding a brief farewell to the Chiefs, who take what amounts to about a 1-month break before training camp starts at Missouri Western. We have an official date on that now. July 22nd will be the first practice in St. Joseph. Beat writer Jesse Newell and columnists Vahe, Gregorian, and Sam McDowell discuss what the Chiefs got accomplished at their mandatory minicamp last week and where things stand heading into the downtime. But let's start with a clip from last week's media availability and hear what tight end Travis Kelce had to say about his future with the Chiefs. After about a minute with Kelce, we'll jump right into the conversation with Sam, Jesse, and Vahe.
You know, I got 1 year on this contract. I know that, and we'll try and figure out something for next year. The Chiefs organization knows how much I love them. I can't see myself ever playing anywhere else. So we'll deal with that down the road when the time is right. But right now, I'm focused on winning a championship this year.
So Travis, this year, what are your expectations for yourself then this year? Any different than they always are?
Be the best teammate, be the best leader I can. Last year, I think I failed, especially in that last game, and being a leader and being the one that could step up and make plays. So just setting the bar even higher for myself this year than I have in the past.
Other than winning another championship, what would make this season a success for you?
That's the only way I determine whether it's a success or not, man. It's just kind of how I'm wired now. Earlier on in my career, I would set those goals for myself, and I just think it's just more of a genuine feel and the right mentality to just go out there and try and make every play for my team.
Let's see, we've gone through the draft, rookie minicamp, OTAs, and now mandatory minicamp. All of the problems that the Chiefs experienced in their Super Bowl loss to the Philadelphia Eagles solved. It's over. Everything's good. Right. Jesse, what impressed you most about the Chiefs during rookie minicamp? Not rookie minicamp, but minicamp, the whole offseason, the OTAs.
Yeah, I mean, I think we heard what you think you would want to hear from them, which is they're hungry and they're motivated. And the Super Bowl loss has kind of gotten them back in a certain way that potentially wins don't. And that's just natural. That's human nature. As far as things go, I think the Chiefs, as far as what they do, Andy Reid is just so well respected that they have sort of a culture here, and what they do with their practices and who's expected to be here, even when it's not mandatory. You know, you see Travis Kelce show up, you see Chris Jones show up, you see Patrick Mahomes be a leader, and it sort of trickles down to the rest of the people where I'm sure some other NFL teams don't have that sort of leadership in place, which means some of these guys don't take this thing as seriously. So I think the continuity really serves them well. I think we saw some positive things from them out of the practices, but again, it's June 19th. You don't want to make too much of it, but it does seem like they're going to want to get the ball downfield more. It does seem like they're going to make a real concerted effort to do that after they talked about it last year and didn't do it. But as far as things go and as far as continuity goes, this is where you want them to be at this point. And I do think they are motivated by a Super Bowl loss that does stick with them and sting them here a few months later.
No doubt about that stinging, and it's really interesting to try to think about how that adds a different kind of fuel for them than the idea of repeating. Now it's sort of reproving themselves. I think they kind of flooded the zone in some ways on their needs, especially on the offensive line, and in a sense, just having back guys who were hurt last year in the receiving corps has completely changed what we might anticipate anyway about that. So I know you were somehow perhaps being sarcastic, Blair, about everything being solved, but I think for this time of year, I don't know what else you would really hope that they could have achieved since the Super Bowl. It just seems like the arc is where they're headed. One last caveat is I don't really remember Andy Reid ever seeming displeased in the offseason. So he seems pleased, but I don't remember him ever kind of saying we just didn't work today or anything like that. So maybe they always work out well.
Yeah.
There haven't been the off-field headlines either.
Yeah,
good
point.
Rasheed Rice was one a year ago.
With Trey Smith being here,
Trey Smith was here. There wasn't the Chris Jones holdout, and
we got a month.
Always the optimist, Sam. Well, I know, Sam. This is a big point for you, and Andy Reid spoke to it today, and very much agreed with you, which is there is something to this passing game to be said about having the same guys in the building with Patrick Mahomes for multiple years, and you don't have to reteach things over and over again. And the Chiefs are at that point right now. So you can't predict health, but if their receivers are on the field, those guys should have a feel for this offense that they didn't have a year ago.
Yeah, I was thinking about the last 3 mandatory minicamps, and last year Xavier Worthy, you're already saying is for sure going to be a top 3 wide receiver, maybe top 2 wide receiver on the depth chart, and he's watching this camp standing next to Matt Nagy. The year earlier, Rashee Rice is probably going to be your number 2 wide receiver. He winds up being the number 1 late in the year, and he's coming out of the huddle going the wrong way on a play.
And throwing up.
Yeah, throwing up. And then the year earlier, Sky Moore was the same way. They were counting on Sky Moore to be productive. They went into the draft needing a wide receiver. That's everyone I'm listing as a second or first round pick. And this year you look at it, and at least their top 3 is solidified with Rashee Rice, Hollywood Brown, and Xavier Worthy. Now their availability could potentially come into question, but then you also have, Juju Smith-Schuster to fall back on that this time last year they didn't have because they didn't acquire him to the end of training camp. It's just there's a lot of familiarity. Jalen Royals is about the only guy out there who's learning the roster. I mean, even some of these guys who could be your 5th, 6th wide receivers, like Sky Moore, like Thornton was here last year for the back half of the year for the practice squad. They're not. This wasn't a learning camp. This was more of a layering on camp for them.
Even Justin Ross is an old grizzled veteran with his team. So, but you're right. How would you seed the wide receivers right now? Are there 4 or 5 just cinches to be on the roster, going down to Rice, Worthy, Hollywood, Brown, Juju? I think those
and
are
Royals.
And Royals. Those 5 for sure, right?
Yeah.
Then there's kind of maybe a decision to be made for the next
yeah.
1 or 2.
The first decision they should make is not to keep 7.
This is Sam's drumbeat. This is his heartbeat right here.
And every year there's more evidence of it. Last year, Sky Moore was a 7th wide receiver. He played 6 games and did not catch a pass. You don't need a 7th wide receiver. And the fact that there are so many options, they're 8, 9, 10 are better than just about anyone else has 8, 9, 10. In which case, if you cut number 7, you can still get 8, 9, 10 back on the practice squad. Even if somebody picks up your 7th, you're going to have internal options, and I don't think there's a big enough separation to justify 7. But yeah, you're right. I mean, Sky Moore's going to be in the mix. I think they're still going to give him every shot to make the team, even though he hasn't produced. Nika Remigio, was on the roster to end last season. Mm-hmm. Jesse's been high on Thornton, and I think Brown, number 89, has had a really solid.
Gosh, he made some great catches.
Yesterday.
I think he's had a solid camp for him. So there's going to be a few guys, I think, that are going to be tough decisions for him. Maybe they'll keep 8. Maybe they won't keep 7.
Well, and the wrench in this whole thing is
2 tight ends, 2 running backs, 1 quarterback.
That last spot usually has to play special teams, guys. I mean, you're talking about replacing Justin Watson, so who is that? And so I thought it was interesting, Tyquan Thornton is playing some gunner. We've seen Sky Moore on, kickoff return and doing some blocking in there. So, to kind of solidify this last roster spot, how much can you do for a team and how much will Dave Tope have a say in that and who can emerge in that sort of role? But that will be definitely one of the position battles to track.
I think if we go back just maybe through the Patrick Mahomes era and do the cumulative stats of the number 6 wide receiver on this roster, it wouldn't add up to much. And we spend so much time talking about it.
I've done it. It doesn't. I mean, there was the first couple of years of Patrick Mahomes were, 2018 and 19, where they only kept 5. And the 5th receiver was Marcus Kemp, and he hardly produced.
He was the gunner.
Yes. Now, to Jesse's point, he was a consistent special teams performer, but offensively, they rarely used 5 wide receivers. Now they use double tight end sets more than ever. So look, Rashee Rice has the potential to be suspended. Hollywood Brown always has the potential to get injured. Xavier Worthy is small enough that the injury is a concern, so I can understand 6. But they don't get production out of these guys. And I think even these guys who have been injured over the past few years, you say, okay, that's why you keep them. But you've got a 16-member practice squad, and Thornton was the guy we were talking about. Everyone in the league could have had Tyquan Thornton last year. The Chiefs picked him up and stashed him on the practice squad, but anyone could have signed him to the roster. Nobody did. These guys are available.
I'm just glad you brought up the point with Rashee Rice, because I think, I've tended to forget about it, but What might we expect about a suspension at this point, and when would we learn?
Well, it's after his criminal case is taken care of. So, yeah, I mean that's up in the air. I don't
remember the last I heard. I don't remember the last I heard about the court.
There has not been.
Yeah.
He has not been indicted yet. So
Yeah.
I mean, it is like the pre-stages of anything happening. Which
It's the potential. It's not till next year.
yeah,
that we're
potentially
talking
it's
about.
as of right now. It seems like the most likely scenario, unless something speeds up or unless something happens that we don't know about, is that he won't even face a suspension this year. It'll be because the NFL does not want the legal process to go through after they suspend somebody, and for them to say, "Oh, okay, here's this punishment," when the NFL did something silly. I mean, we saw that sort of with some of the past ones where video comes out after the fact, the NFL has egg on their face. So it's interesting because of that. But Sam, to your point as well, I mean, this is why the training camp battle is interesting, and also why you have so many guys around is because how many years do we go to training camp and guys get hurt? Hollywood Brown last year. Remember Kadarius Toney, like one of the very first reps of training camp. It's one of the biggest stories we write. So it's good to have depth there right now, but how this thing shakes itself out could be a lot of different directions, including they could make a trade. We've seen them trade Amir Smith-Marset in the past. It could be a guy like Sky Moore just to change the scenery, go give a guy another shot somewhere else. So all this could play out in different ways, but it does depend on health, and we don't know the health right now.
I think Sky Moore definitely needs to change the scenery. I think he needs a fresh start somewhere else. Here, he would be no better than 6. I think he could be a 3 or 4 at a lesser team.
Really? Well, I know you looked to Jesse afterwards.
You wanted me to talk.
For confirmation, right? 3-4.
I think Sam said it best.
Second round pick.
People in the building love Sky Moore. He's a really good guy. I think other teams in the NFL would hesitate to be like, if the Chiefs couldn't get something out of him, why could we? Having said that, listen, this is going to be repetitive. He's had a good camp. We've seen this from him, though. We've seen him have good camps before. I thought it was very interesting. I asked Andy Reid in there, the media room, about Tyquan Thornton, and one of the first things he said about Tyquan was he has the quarterback's trust. And that's something I don't think Sky Moore has. I want to be honest about this. I don't think Patrick Mahomes trusts Sky Moore, which is the reason you would potentially trade him somewhere and say, this is not going to work out here. You've done well in training camp. It's time for you to potentially go somewhere else and get a fresh start where there isn't this back history with you in games from what you've produced that would lead you to have a tougher road here than somewhere else. But we don't know what's in front of us. Again, he's looked pretty good in these camps out here. He does well when the pads aren't on. Can he produce that in a game? Can he regain the trust that he's lost so far? I guess that's a question that remains here in the future. And if it doesn't turn out his way, then maybe he will be wearing a different uniform here at some point.
Rest assured, we will devote an entire podcast to who the number 6 wide receiver will be at training camp.
Yes. No, I'm going for number 7. I don't know. We can leave Sam out of that one.
Take a swing at picking sports this baseball season with Underdog. Playing on their app is as easy as choosing higher or lower on players' stats. Get them right, and you could win up to 1,000 times your money. Sign up today using promo code KCSTAR to get a gimme pick as a part of your first cash entry, plus up to $1,000 in bonus credits when you deposit. Must be 18 plus and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org.
I thought tight end was an interesting position here as well, not just because of Travis Kelce losing, 125 pounds or something, whatever. I forgot what the number was.
That's what he said. Right?
I loved how he debunked that immediately in his first press
I didn't say
availability.
that.
It's right.
Yeah.
Don't believe what you read on the internet.
With a little finger wag toward it, but it was very playful. So
I also liked he said, "Don't believe what you read on the internet." Like the paper's fine.
yeah. I just wish he'd added that part.
Absolutely believe everything you read in the newspaper, especially the Kansas City Star. But a couple of new faces, interesting players here at the tight end position. Robert Tonyan, is that how you pronounce it? Tonyan?
Tonyan,
Tonyan, who played with the Packers.
Yeah, he's had a good camp. He had a good summer, I thought.
He's actually, we say he's new. He's not new.
He
was on the practice squad with the Chiefs last year.
Right.
Never got called up. And
his NFL
was
experience
around.
was with Green Bay.
Yes,
right,
exactly. And hasn't produced here in a couple of years in the NFL.
And the other one, I keep calling him the Clemson kid. Jake Brenningstool, something like that. I'm impressed by both of those guys. Are they going to, with Jared Wiley still recovering from his injury that kept him out of just about all of last year? To me, at least what I saw, OTAs is nothing but a passing exercise, right? Passing game exercise. So there's opportunities for a lot of guys to look good. And we saw great throws and catches. But these two guys, Tanyan and Brenning Stool, I was impressed by them, and I think they have a chance to be on the roster.
Brennan Stool's interesting because I thought he had a good rookie camp, and then we saw him miss mandatory camp out here, and last week too with an undisclosed injury. So, if you're a guy who's an undrafted free agent, you can't miss days at training camp though. So he's going to be, I think, fighting from a little bit of behind where we all anticipated just 3 weeks ago. I think the way we would have answered this question. We just got done talking to Andy Reid though, and I didn't anticipate that Jared Wiley would be ready for training camp, which is what he basically hinted at, was that they anticipate that he'll be ready to go for training camp. I mean, I don't think people realize like how many games he actually played last year. I think he played like 7 games last year and only had 1 catch. That was a mid-season ACL injury to where guys usually aren't ready for camp. So that speaks to, they've had a few guys this camp that I think has stood out to even their own coaches have been surprised by how quickly they're ready to go, with Wiley and obviously, Josh Simmons being the headliner of that.
Yeah, I think the roster spot was potentially available because of Wiley. So if he rushes back, I'm not sure that roster spot's available. Yeah. And Tanyan is clearly the one behind Gray right now, from what we've seen. So like if they're taking a third tight end right now, if we're not talking about Wiley, it would be Tanyan. So the other name to keep in mind is Trey Watson, a kid out of A&M. I know there's some things that he's done that have kind of opened eyes here, but he's also been sitting out with some sort of undisclosed injury. So same sort of thing. Like if you're trying to make an impression, this is the time. Those guys haven't been able to jump up there. But as far as Brenning Stool goes, if Andy Reid calls you to recruit you to the team and the Chiefs provide the type of signing bonus they did to an undrafted free agent, they paid up for him to get him here. They do see something in him. He had some good moments in OTAs before the injury, but I think, again, all this was contingent, as Sam said, on Jared Wiley not being ready. So if he's out there and he's healthy and he looks full strength, potentially this battle maybe shrinks down compared to what we thought.
It's such an offensive thing off-season, like I said. So we won't talk defense at all. Let's talk about the offensive line. Every time Andy Reid steps to a podium and talks about Simmons, it's like he's farther along than we thought.
He one-ups himself.
That's every time.
Now he's got him as potentially starting.
Next time he'll be all pro.
Let me ask you guys this. I just got asked this on radio. They asked me to predict the Chiefs' offensive line for Game 1 in Brazil. Would you say it's Josh Simmons?
I think it looks like it's trending towards Josh Simmons, based on what we heard today, especially.
I would have had a different answer before this week. I would have had Jalen Moore. But I think it's Simmons now. And I think it's going to be Kingsley Suamataia at guard.
That was my answer. I'm glad you said that, Blair. Vahe, are you in agreement?
I see nothing that would tell me otherwise. Seeing Simmons move around is really impressive. I mean, even though it was just some 7-on-7 stuff, you guys have seen more of him than I have, but I had no idea he could move like that already.
He looks good. He definitely looked good. And everything we've been hearing is, he's ahead of schedule and farther along. But
the other problem is Jalen Moore's been out for team drills because he's not fully healthy from some undisclosed injury as well. So we haven't been able to see the full Jalen Moore either.
They got a lot of money invested in Jalen Moore, right?
Yes and no. I mean, it's Chiefs money, yes. It's their largest acquisition of the offseason.
It's a going rate, though. For that position.
For left tackle, he's pretty far down the chart, but it's the most money the Chiefs spent in the offseason. So, it's not nothing. But you do have him for 2 years, and literally all signs point to this being Jawan Taylor's last year in Kansas City. Obviously, you have the opportunity to restructure and bring somebody back, but it wouldn't be. You'd still get some value out of Jalen Moore a year from now, and he learns your system this year, even if he doesn't play. But it's certainly like Josh Simmons needs to go win the job in training camp. And to me, the Chiefs need to learn the lesson from Kingsley Suamataia a year ago of not wanting someone to be your starter, but making him earn the chance to be your starter. And the difference between this year and last year is with Kingsley Suamataia, we saw the other option was Wanya Morris. Like, they needed Kingsley Suamataia to win that job, as the season evidenced.
Right.
This year, when you have Jalen Moore as your fallback option, like, Josh Simmons has to go win the job. He can't be given the job.
At a certain point, I also don't. this is a weird thing to say. Again, he's going to compete for the job. He might be the starting left tackle game one. But Jalen Moore played a few good games and parlayed that into a 2-year, $30 million deal. Like, I don't know that there needs to be big alligator tears for this guy. I mean, I don't know that the rest of the NFL, that there was 30 other teams out there saying we want this guy to be our left tackle. This provided him the best opportunity to start. It still probably provides him the best opportunity to start in a team and a program that potentially could win a Super Bowl again. And so, listen, does he want to win the job? Yes. Could he win the job? Absolutely. But the fact he's in a battle and that the Chiefs had the glaring weakness they had and secured it with 2 options instead of having none last year, I don't think that's the worst thing. And I also think that if Jalen Moore has to be a backup to start off with and is making a lot of money to do it, I think potentially he should be able to handle that pretty well as well.
As I recall, at training camp last year, the first team drill, Kingsley Suamataia lined up at left guard, and we knew then that was
Left tackle
last year.
training camp last year. I wonder if that
Left tackle, you mean?
Left tackle, yes,
Yeah.
yes, left tackle.
Him and the first team drill, him and Wanya Morris were shifting back and forth. They were both starting at left tackle. But I do think you're right that it wasn't. It was Kingsley.
I think Kingsley got the first
I
look.
remember Trey Smith and Creed Humphrey getting the first snap on their first day, to where Trey Smith said he learned 5 seconds before that first snap he was going to get the first snap at training camp. And these guys all we'll hear in training camp from Andy Reid is, Andy Heck likes to rotate those guys out. There's a lot of evidence in what happens, to your point, Blair, on the first series we see.
Yep, and that'll be something to keep an eye on. And
It'll be Josh Simmons. There's nothing to keep an eye on. It's going to be Josh Simmons to start off with. We'll see if he keeps it. We'll see if Jalen Moore gets his health back up. But it's going to be Josh Simmons. I mean, it'll be something to watch. We'll have to pay attention to it. But there's no reason right now to not think that he's going to take that first rep.
that'll be sometime the 3rd week in July, right? July 21st, we found out this week is NFL came out with this July 21st is this uniform starting date for NFL rookies and veterans. So, but Chiefs might have something going on the day before that. And, of course, we'll be there. Jesse Newell, Vahe Gregorian, and Sam McDowell. I'm Blair Kirchhoff. Thanks for joining us on SportsBeat KC, the Kansas City Star Sports podcast presented by Underdog. Before I forget, big thanks to Monty Davis and Randy Mason for producing. Our editors are Jeff Rosen and Scott Chasen, and we'll do this again soon.